Joining me now live in studio is flute player Haley Rempel. Haley, good morning. Welcome to Shades of Classics and to CKUW.
Thank you so much, John. Good morning.
Well, it's great to have you in here. And of course, you have a concert coming up this month, and we'll talk about that later. But maybe let's start off just by, I didn't read your bio or anything, so maybe let's just start off by telling us a little bit about how you grew up and how you came to play the flute and that sort of stuff.
Oh, sure. So I'm from Winnipeg originally. I grew up here, but I left after I was finished with high school, and I went to McGill University, actually. I had auditioned to several music schools. I wanted to study flute performance. And so I moved to Montreal, and that's where I did my bachelor's degree. And I originally wanted to go study in Europe after that. I was madly studying German so I could go to Austria or someplace exciting like that, Germany. But I ended up getting this fabulous opportunity to study at Yale University, which is in Connecticut, just 1 hour from New York City. And so it was really something I couldn't turn down at that point. And so off I went to Yale, where I completed a master's degree, which was an unforgettable experience, truly. And I'm really grateful to have had that opportunity. So I studied with Timothy Hutchins at McGill and then with Ransom Wilson at Yale. And from there, I got a year-long permit to work, actually, in the United States. So I headed off to Los Angeles for another year, and I taught there at college in San Diego. I taught at the Orange County High School of the Arts. I performed in Southern California. And it was really at that point that I said to myself, okay, I can continue to do this. And I loved what I was doing, but at the same time, I had this real passion, this real need to start a company of my own and to create live concert productions. And being a foreigner in the United States, that was going to be a lot more difficult than coming home and doing it. So that's exactly what I did. I moved back home, and it was a really great opportunity for me to do that and further my career at the same time. And here I am.
Mm-hmm. How did it come to pass that the flute became your instrument of choice rather than, say, piano or violin or something?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. That's an interesting story. I started by studying keyboard, not piano, but keyboard, because my parents saw how I loved music and how maybe it would be a great idea for me to take music lessons. So they said, Haley, let's enroll you in piano lessons. To which I vehemently said, no way. Absolutely not, because I don't like classical music. I want to play pop music. And so that was my attitude at the time. And so, okay, you're going to play pop music. So they enrolled me in keyboard lessons. And I eventually, through recorder studies at school, began to play more and more classical music without realizing that it was classical music. And I realized that I actually did love it. So when I decided to join band in junior high in grade 7, I was trying to pick out an instrument. I had my heart set on the clarinet, and it was actually my mother who said, I really like the sound of the flute. You should give the flute a try. And so I thought, well, okay, why not? I'll try it. It didn't make a big difference either way. I didn't know a lot about either instrument. So I picked up the flute, and it came easily to me, and there you go.
That's good. So you said that studying at Yale was an unforgettable experience. So what was it like studying at Yale? I guess it's quite a high-profile university, too.
Yes, absolutely. No pressure right there.
Yeah, none at all.
It really was like a dream come true. And the most popular question I get about my time at Yale was, does Yale live up to its name? Does it live up to its reputation? To which I never thought I would say yes, because it has this huge, massive reputation, but it absolutely did live up to its name. I mean, the whole university is just brimming with people who are challenging their field, who are making new discoveries. We have all kinds of, past presidents and Nobel Peace winners giving speeches and coming and doing medical research and furthering all fields of study. And so to be there, just in general, to be in the whole Yale atmosphere was truly unforgettable, the experiences that I had. And to study at the music school was also a dream come true, really, especially at a time when the school really was building on its reputation. It received a huge grant during my first year there.
Now, you mentioned that while you were at Yale, you studied under the esteemed American flutist Ransom Wilson, an experience that you say formed the basis of your approach to the flute. Can you explain to us what that approach is?
Yes, I love being with Ransom. Ransom's quite a character and a musical genius, really. He's furthered his career. He now conducts with the Met Opera Orchestra in New York City. He tours all over the place, and I originally met him in Italy in 2004 at a master class. And Ransom really had the courage to tear down my playing completely and rebuild it from the ground up, really, which is what I wanted and what I needed at the time. It was difficult. I'm not going to sit here and say it was easy, because it took a lot of work to form myself to be the flute player that I wanted to be, and that was going in the direction that he saw for me. And so it was trying at times, but I hopefully persevered. I just kind of worked through it. That's all you can do, really. And I really am grateful to him all the time for what he did for my playing.
Now, among the teaching positions that you've held, one was here at the University of Winnipeg, I was reading. Can you tell us about that?
That's right. I still do teach right here at the U of W, and so I lecture in the education faculty about the power of music in classrooms, not in a music setting, not in a music class, but in a general classroom, about how music can modify behavior for students who maybe aren't as energized as they should be about a subject matter, or maybe are too energized, maybe they have ADHD, something like that. How music really helps us memorize things so well. I mean, I always use the example in my classroom of 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, who we would never dream of teaching them a sequence of 26 letters in order at that point in their lives, had it not been for the alphabet song, right? And I mean, most of the time, if you ask an adult still today, what's the letter after T? They have to, A, B, C, D, E, right? And count and sing at least part of the song before they get it. Yeah. And so without realizing it, music has this incredible ability in all of us to help learn and memorize and make these impressions that are so important to education.
There's all those little hooks that they had in school, just like the every good boy deserves favor and
yes, exactly.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
And we still use it today because it works.
Now, You've stated that learning an instrument is a demanding and lifelong process. What aspect of learning is the most demanding for you personally, and how is learning an instrument, or how do you see it as a lifelong process?
Well, I mean, it's all about the journey. There's no finish line, and anybody who studies an instrument will know that. And for me, the most demanding part is psychological, and I would dare say that it is that way for most musicians, because you need this balance between determination and focus when you're up on stage, and you have all these distractions and people are looking at you, and you feel so self-conscious, and you need the confidence to get up there and realize that you're never going to be perfect. None of us are going to be perfect and get on stage and play the perfect concert, but in essence that's not what matters. That's not what people go to see as a perfect concert. They go to see concerts that will make an impact on them, that will change them, that will teach them things, open up new worlds. And it really takes a constant reminder to myself that that's what music is about, to stop demanding perfection, and to really approach the instrument every day, and it is an everyday thing pretty much, with a fresh outlook, with an optimistic outlook, but yet keep that discipline really to work hard every day. It's
like I've been to concerts where note for note it's been perfect, but it's just sort of left you cold, and then other concerts where the artist tends to maybe take more chances and is more, and it's much more of an experience musically.
Exactly.
Now, I guess you had no problem now having worked at the U of W, or working at the U of W. I guess you had no problem finding CKUW. Then, did you know that it actually existed up here?
I have to admit I didn't, but I'm glad I found out about it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, last year you founded Aurelia Productions, a company devoted to creating new ways for audiences to experience classical music. The company's first production, The Men Behind the Music, garnered international attention. Outline some of the new ways that you've created for audiences to experience classical music.
This is my huge passion right now. I mean, some people in my life would rather say obsession, but when I began my study of music history and the composers and everything, like many musicians do, I had this longing, this craving to learn more about the composers than the textbooks were telling me, basically. I wanted to know what they were like as people, what people thought of them when they were alive, what it would have been like to sit down and have dinner with them, things like that, because, I mean, all of these things, their imperfections, their love lives, their friendships, their faults, had a profound effect on their music. And this is the manner in which I wanted to know the composers. And once I started studying them in this way, I realized that this information was fascinating. I mean, mind-blowing. Elvis, the Beatles really had nothing on Robert Schumann, right, Friedrich Chopin, J.S. Bach, in the sense that they lived just as interesting lives, just as dramatic lives, filled with people, problems, conflict, love, everything like that. So I wanted to share this with people. And when I did so, in speaking with them after my concerts, they were fascinated by what I had to tell them. And but then I thought it to be a shame that the only people that got to hear about this information were the few that I got to chat with after my concerts. So I decided that I was going to make this series The Men Behind the Music, and I decided that I was going to leave it up to film segments during the concert to introduce the composers in a dramatic way and telling them the truth about what it would have been like, to meet these guys in real life. And so the first show was last year, The Men Behind the Music, Bach, Handel, and Mozart, in which I talked about things like, hey, listen, Bach went to jail. Did you know that? Did you know that, Mozart, they think that Mozart may have had ADHD because of his childish behavior, and, things like that. And again, I really think it has a profound effect on the music they wrote and in understanding the music that these composers wrote.
Right. Now, you recently did your first project with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, working on the commercials for the world premiere of Wonderland last year. Tell us about that project.
Oh, how fun that was. That was such an experience because I really love the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. I love ballet in general. And so they wanted to do, they were producing this new show, Wonderland, that had a lot of multimedia. And I really got very excited about it because of the new directions that it was going in. And so I got on board with the project, and I worked with Judy Slavinsky, their senior marketing director, and members of her team to come up with these short film-like commercials that were very much in the style of vaudeville and early 20th century film. And they wanted it to be kind of in the style of silent films, and at the end they wanted some kind of sound splash to go along with it. And so they gave me a little bit of footage of the ballet in progress, and I just came up with a few different examples. I sat in Judy's office and we worked together on that. And so I ended up composing, the little flute lick you hear at the end and recording it. And it actually became a ringtone that you can download on the ballet site. And so that's my phone ringtone currently.
There you go. There you go. You're listening to Shades of Classics on CKUW 95.9 FM in Winnipeg. We're live in studio with Haley Rempel. Now, Haley, I've got a few quotes here that I've taken from your website, and I'm going to just sort of ask you to explain them maybe in more detail.
Okay.
The first one is, I'm in love with music because I believe it expresses things that we cannot put into words. Music, in my opinion, has the ability to bring people together and add something extraordinary to our lives.
Yeah. And so that's a very important part of my website, kind of my statement of why I do what I do and why I keep doing it every day. And so I really do believe that music can bring us together and help us to identify who we are as humans, really. I think that bringing people together is really one of the largest reasons I do what I do. And I've seen so much emotion come out of music in my own life, and I know that people turn to music when they have a bad day in funerals and weddings. What would those kind of events be without music? They help us express ourselves, express the sadness that inevitably comes with being human, and as well as some of the joy, and can bring us to tears in both of those aspects, sadness and joy. And I don't know what I would do in my life without music. And really, I just want to share that with people and make connections that way. And if I can do that, I'll be one happy person.
There you go. Now, the next quote I have is, "As a musician, I strive to make music with a keen awareness of the time in which it was created. At the same time, I feel it is my responsibility to create concerts for today's culture and to be insistent on keeping the audience in mind." How do you achieve that?
Yeah, this is another big cornerstone of what I do, and really the impetus behind my productions. Because what I found in all of this historical research was that the type of concerts and the type of concert atmosphere that we harbor today is actually very young, which is to say that it's completely inauthentic of the lifetime of Mozart, Bach, Vivaldi, Telemann, Haydn, all of these composers. They knew nothing of sitting in a concert hall for 2 hours in complete silence, not moving around. They would eat and drink and chat with their friends and play cards while the concerts were going on. At the same time, they would react to the music as they were hearing it. If there was one particular section or one particular cadenza that they really liked, they would start cheering and clapping right then and there. They would also boo and spit and hiss if they didn't like the performers. And so it's this spirit that I want to bring back. We cannot bring back the past, and I'm keenly aware of that. But I do think we can get closer to bringing back the spirit, and that's really what I would love to do. Through my production company, I decided that the best way would be to use multimedia. And so here my goal is to have a marriage between modern society, multimedia, which is very much a part of other entertainment events that we go to, pop concerts, sporting events, right? We always have, multimedia and things like that. So if I can achieve a marriage between this modern technology, modern society's expectations, and also harboring the spirit of the way it used to be in Mozart's lifetime, I really think that there's something special that can be achieved there, and I love doing it with all my heart. I'm obsessed over it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the whole period instrument movement is sort of a part of that too, trying to sort of reenact, if you will, the spirit of how the music was played back when it was created?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I have to give musicians credit. We pay an extraordinary amount of attention to being authentic tuning, for heaven's sakes, authentic instruments, authentic articulations, everything like that. It's wonderful. But I have to ask myself sometimes, if we are paying this much if we're paying this much attention to authenticity, then why aren't we wondering or being concerned about the audience's experience and how authentic it is?
Mm-hmm. Now, I got one final quote here, and I found this one quite interesting. "Like a dancer or an athlete, it is my constant goal to use the body in the most natural way possible in order to create music that sounds free and effortless. I am inspired by the art of dance, visual arts, people, and the beauty of the world around us." Mm-hmm. How do you achieve that goal?
Yes, I'm always talking about this to my private students. Using the body in a natural and healthy way is actually not something we're very accustomed to in our daily lives anymore, because we sit in front of computers, slouched over, being relatively inactive physically. And so often when I approach the instrument, or when my students do, we really have to think about how our posture is, where we're breathing from, and how we can use our body to the best of its ability, because it's not something that we do often anymore. And often students come to me with neck problems, with back problems, and they say, Haley, how am I going to play the flute? I have these problems. And I actually tell them that the things I'm going to teach them are going to help their problem to be able to use their body more naturally, focus, and things like that. I think it's hugely important. So that's partly where the inspiration from dance comes from, and also working with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet think it's hugely important.
I've noticed a lot of artists, at least the artists that I tend to enjoy the most, when they perform on stage, there is a lot of body movement, particularly with singers. There's a lot of body movement and a lot of expression, and even things like seeing violinist Joshua Bell, for instance, a lot of body movement there, with not just playing the instrument, but actual the body movement there.
Exactly. I think it's a fine balance, and I've definitely gone through periods in my own playing where I would move a lot because I would think that the more I move, the more expressive my playing is. Of course, that's not always true. But and then I would have a teacher who said, "You move too much," so I would make it my goal not to move at all, and kind of from one extreme to the next. But it's definitely a fine balance. As musicians, we have to, of course, be ultimately concerned with the way we sound. However, there is a presentation element to it in order for us to connect with the audience.
Right. Now, as we mentioned at the beginning, you've got a concert coming up with pianist Laura Lowen. That's on April 20th, I believe it is. You want to tell us all about that?
Yes, I'm very excited to do this. And, I have to be honest, I've been so busy with productions, multimedia productions, in the last couple of years that this is actually my first full-length concert in a couple of years now. And so I had to ask myself, okay, you have this great opportunity. What are you going to do? The Conservatory is starting a new series called The Conservatory Players. And so this is actually the very first concert in the series. And it's my honor to give it. I decided on a theme of time. The concert title is About Time. And it's an interactive concert, so I'll be speaking in between all of the pieces. And basically what I want to talk about is the events that occurred over time and how that changed the music. I know that we often think of our parents, our grandparents, and we think, oh, life was so different back then. Well, what happens if we go back many more generations? What happens if we go back to 1700 when Vivaldi, Telemann, J.S. Bach were alive? What was life like? What was life like back then? And I think it's very important to understand that in order to connect with the music. There was no internet, there was no iPhones, telephone, electricity, television. And so without that technology, the only way they had an opportunity to hear music was if they were wealthy enough to hire musicians, or if they were, amateur chamber players, invited a few friends over for a dinner party and then had chamber music after, which is kind of how chamber music formed. And so you can imagine in these circumstances, when people did have the opportunity to hear music, how special that would have been. And so this is kind of the beginning of our journey. And I'm going to talk about all kinds of things that happened over time. Things like the invention of the toilet, how that had a massive change in life. Things, of course, like the world wars. Music really can't remain untouched after events like this. Medical discoveries that changed lives forever. And so we're going to go on a journey together. We're going to start with Johann Sebastian Bach, who's near and dear to my heart. He's my favorite composer. And really go all the way to the late 20th century and talk in a very real way about how these events changed people's lives forever and how that affected music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, that's on April the 20th, and it's in the Rachel Brown Theatre, which is beside the Conservatory, I think. Or,
yes, it's in the same building as the Conservatory, on the same floor. It's just down the hall. And I'll be playing with Laura Lowen for the first time. I'm very excited to play with Laura. She's fabulous, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm also going to be doing a short video about the concert next week. If people want to check that out on my website, in a 2-minute talk, which is a new kind of video series I have on www.haylyrempel.com.
There you go. And people want tickets for the concert, they can get them through the Conservatory?
Yes, the information's all on my website again, but the Conservatory is, you can also call them up. They're going to set you up with tickets, 943-6090.
There you go. We'll close off with you just giving us a glimpse of what's beyond the concert, I guess, of what's coming up for you and for your production company.
Mm-hmm. Lots of exciting things. I'm going to be putting out a new short video pretty much every week on my website. So that's going to be, I think, an exciting way to connect with people. And in addition to that, I'm excited to announce that I'm going to be premiering a new production in the Man Behind the Music series this fall. And so there'll be information out about that very shortly. And that'll again be showing people the real side of the composers' lives and bringing kind of the music down to earth.
Great. Well, Haley, thanks very much for coming down this morning and telling us all about your career, your production company, and the upcoming concert and everything. It was great to have you here, and hope to have you
so
back
much,
again
John.
someday.
Thanks. It was a pleasure.